Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's Podcast. Today on Calgary's podcast, I have Matt and Amanda Burgener, who are co-founders of Curbside Concerts, and you might know Matt also by his stage name, Matt Masters. Thanks for joining us today, to you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us.
Well, let me just start by asking what Curbside Concerts is.
Yeah, for sure. So Curbside Concerts is a 4-year-old company. We're a live music booking agency. That's kind of the simplest way to see us. But we're almost like Skip the Dishes for live music. Because what we do with our company is you go to our website, curbsideconcerts.ca. You choose the music, the time, and the space that you're looking for. I want a jazz band at my parents' house on Wednesday. And that's what you get. So it's live music and dance delivery. We do a lot of work in shopping malls. We work with municipalities, and we work all across Canada. Our company started during COVID when we, as musicians, we kind of lost our work. We couldn't work in clubs and venues. We couldn't teach classes. We have 3 little kids. And so we realized that if you took the music to the curbside and turned up the volume on a battery-powered speaker, you could have a non-contact, distance-compliant concert, a curbside concert. So that was the genesis of the idea. It started kind of inspired, days into the pandemic. In May of 2020, we launched, and we promptly grew nationwide. To this point now, where we've delivered thousands of concerts across Canada. We're active in 7 provinces, and we're quite excitingly, we're nearing a big landmark number as our company. We're about to pay artists our $1 millionth dollar.
Wow. So how many different artists would you have in this?
Well, we are growing pretty much every day. I think we have about 200 professional musicians on our roster all across Canada. And basically any city or any town that has asked for live music delivered to them, we have local artists in their area that they can pick and choose from, and we'll help get that to you.
So do you two also still perform as well for these curbside concerts?
Yeah, so I'm a country and western singer, and it's my day job for 25 years. So I have 2 curbside concerts this week. One's in a care facility, and then one's at a public kind of amusement park. So that's the variety.
Speaking of the variety, tell me like what kind of places have you guys done these things in? What's the weirdest place?
Well, I'll have to think a second for the weirdest place. The majority of our shows nowadays happen in shopping malls. So when we launched, we were primarily like a business to customer model where we were bringing music to people's houses, bringing music to community centers and facilities and community associations. But we
were even on top of the minivan. We had a stage set up.
That's true. At the very start, there was a minivan with a stage on top. The idea was to stay distanced from the audience. So I was driving around Calgary the summer of 2020 with a minivan stage.
Canada's podcast is your gateway to success in the world of entrepreneurship. Start listening today. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
Yeah, I got to tell you a story. You know what? Our neighbors across the street had you over at that time, and I remember because they had set up on their front lawn, and actually I'm looking out my picture window here, and I see their yard, and you had set up there, and then all the other neighbors brought out their lawn chairs and sat out, in their own respective yards and listening. Yeah, fantastic.
You hit on it right there. At the core of our work, we're a music delivery service. But the end result of our work is the building of community. That's this interesting thing. We're in the community development industry, because what happens when you put live music for free, because it's not ticketed, the host or the owner of the space is paid for it. The artist is being compensated professionally, but the neighbors get a free concert. And when you have free shared listening, shared listening is really the foundation of community building, because it's not asking, who are you before you come in? It says, come on in. We're listening together. And so then those two neighbors, the next time they see each other, they say, do you remember that thing we did together? And imagine this, in a shopping mall, you got two parents, both with kids, and the kids like take a second to dance to the music. And those parents have that, they share a look. It's unspoken, but they're just like, man, I'm glad my kid's dancing. Aren't you glad yeah, it's great. You have your hands free. Great. And that look shared between two strangers comes through live music, and it builds community. So that's one of the beautiful things about our company, is that even though we're helping professional musicians and dancers get paid to work in safe conditions, we're also helping build community for audiences all across Canada.
So the concept came out of a period of I guess necessity and need, right? And do you think that the idea, if it wasn't a pandemic, the idea would ever popped up in your head?
That's a good question. I don't know that it would have come to fruition the way it did, because it was definitely a time of necessity, like you said. I think things would have kept trucking the way they were, and people going to venues to see music.
Before the pandemic, I primarily worked in clubs and theaters. Amanda plays flute with the Calgary Wind Symphony, so she would often be teaching music in a classroom setting. Mm-hmm. So that was our family income structure, And so I will say, at the end of 2019, start of 2020, I had a little idea board for the year, and I did write down, start a music service business. Because part of my experience over 25 years working in, I'm a stage performer, wear a cowboy hat on stage, but I've also worked in the music industry. I've worked with not-for-profits. I've worked for the City of Calgary Arts and Culture. I've worked for the National Music Center. I've worked at CKUA Radio. So I have a variety of professional music experiences. So I realized that the money is often in the delivery. I was thinking about the old gold miners, and how the person selling shovels was more likely to make money than the person digging for gold, And in music, we're all digging for gold, we're all out there just hoping and praying and working. But there's certain pieces that the industry needs. And so what I realized was there was a gap. And the gap that we filled was we give artists daytime work. This is this big, mind-blowing thing. When you think of music, you're like, it happens at night in a place. There's stairs, there's a ticket, it's loud. But no, there's music all day, every day, in every corner of Canada. And a shopping mall, or a plaza, or a school, or a care facility. All these places need music, and they can pay professional wages, so artists don't have to go on tour to get paid. So you can get up, go to work, then pick up the kids from soccer. It's mind-blowing for musicians.
So I'm curious, in terms of your roster of musicians, can musicians sign up with you and say, hey, I got a country band, and I'm open for work or whatever?
No.
Okay. Well, how does it work?
We take applications from bands who are interested, but one of our skill sets is that we have in our company over 50 years of programming. So we know all the musicians in Canada. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Okay. If you say to me, I want to find a banjo player in Dauphin, Manitoba, I will have that person for you in 2 phone calls. And that's one of the skills of our company. So rather than, it's not as much musicians coming to us saying, I'm a great musician and want to work. It's usually a client coming to us saying, I'm looking for a country band. And then we in turn say, where do you live? Here's a great country band in your neighborhood. Wow. So we'll work with anybody. We're not exclusive. We'll book a band one time, or we'll book an artist 25 times. It just depends on the demand for that artist in a lot of ways. But we do have an open application process, but we don't get most of our artists from that.
And what's the range of music that you offer?
It's pretty much anything that you want. So if we get asked for a jazz band or a brass band for a tailgate party, we'll get that for you.
If you want an Indigenous drummer, if you want First Nations dancers, you want a
fiddler.
If you pretty much
string quartet.
Every genre of music is represented, from reggae to classic rock. We work with professional musicians. We do not, we have kids artists or kids entertainers on our roster,
Well, if anybody's ever wanting a unique rendition of House of the Rising Sun, just call me.
You're the guy? Okay. All right. That was going to be the first song I learned on guitar too.
Oh, really? Cool. So let's talk about your musical backgrounds. I'll start with Amanda first. So Matt mentioned a little bit about what you do. Maybe talk about your career, how you started, and what you do.
Yeah. So I started playing flute when I was a little 10-year-old kid, and I just loved it. And it opened up a whole new world of colors for me. So I kept at it. I went to University of Calgary and I did my bachelor degree in flute performance. And from there, I've done various projects, and currently I'm with the Calgary Wind Symphony, going on 10 years with those guys. It's a really fantastic group. We commission new music. We perform regularly. We have free concerts in the park. So it's wonderful being a part of that. And that said, I also do a little bit of teaching on the side, but with 3 kids and running our own business, it's a pretty full day. Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah. Matt, how about you, your music background?
Yeah, I mean, I play guitar and sing. I'm a country singer, go by the name Matt Masters. I'm currently pushing my 7th album, and I just released a song about 2 weeks ago, and it's quite exciting. It's doing pretty well on the streaming. The interesting thing is it's doing well in Mexico City, of all places. So I have rounded up my friends who are Mexican, and they're helping me figure out what the next possible step is, because, as an artist, you got to go where the people like your work. I mean, if you're a fisherman, you got to go to the sea to work. And if you're a musician, you got to go to the place where the people like your music. And I'm a country singer, so living in Calgary is a great fit. Yeah. But this particular new recording of mine is really getting traction in South America and Central America. And so I've toured in Mexico City before. And I'm wondering about maybe it's time for a return visit.
There you go. Where did the name Masters come from? How did that come about?
You know what? When I was 20, living in Vancouver, I wrote a song one night with my roommate, and another roommate suggested the name. Walking past, incidentally, he said, "Great song. You should call yourself Matt Masters and the Gentleman of the Rodeo." And that is my name and my band's name ever since.
Stay ahead of the game with our expert tips and strategies that will help your business thrive in a digital era. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
Let's talk a little bit about music. Obviously, an important part of both of your lives for many, many years. Did you both grow up with music and influenced by music a lot as kids?
Yeah. I remember as a kid, we had a record player and tons of vinyl albums, and there was always music playing in the house, usually my dad's collection. But yeah, I think, no one else in my house was a musician, but I think it played a big part just in day-to-day life. It's part of the fabric of growing up.
And I kind of had the opposite experience with 4 kids in my family. We all played. My dad taught us all to play guitar, and my mom was a bit of a performer too. So we had a piano in the house, and everyone was singing all the time. When I was in high school, I joined the choir. I joined the musical. And then me and my buddies started getting into guitar in our teenage and university years and started playing band shows around clubs in Calgary. Then when I was when I was 20, I was living in Vancouver and decided that I would have this persona, Matt Masters. I'm 48 now, and I've toured to about 12 different countries and probably 2,500 concerts around the world. Like I've gigged a lot, and so music is definitely part of the fabric of our lives. It's the lens through which we see the world, and it's a tool that we use to travel, and it's also a language we teach our children. Music is more than just like what's in the background at the grocery store, although it's great for that too. Yeah. But it's really, music is a system, the same way mathematics are a system. And if you choose to use the system, there are benefits galore.
Yeah. Let's talk about the benefits of music.
Sure.
Especially especially through the periods that we've been through. We here in in 2020 and the following couple of years. How important was music during that period to get people through that period?
Well, I think we all know the answer to that. That it was key. That music has a healing power. Music has a connecting power, and that, especially in times of solitude, especially during the pandemic, music was a tool that a lot of us across not just Canada, but around the world used to connect and to heal. And so, the music industry went through a weird thing because it's important to differentiate, right? There's music, there's the music community, and then there's the music industry. And all those are different things. Like when you enjoy music at home, it's just music. When you're listening to your friend play the piano, that's music. But it kind of starts getting into music community when you share it with somebody. Music community is music that people hear in their community. It's public. It's a gig at a local venue. It's a Taylor Swift concert at a big venue. Those are music community things. And then the music industry is like usually the buying and selling of records and tickets.
Yeah. And
that's like almost exclusively what it is. So we kind of fit a little bit in between. We're like music community because our shows are free, but our artist is getting paid a full professional wage. And another thing we do, we insure our artists and we give them WCB, which is like unheard of in Canada. We're the only agency in Canada that does that because we want to treat our artists like professional working people. And, so that's like, it takes us into the industry side, but we're still kind of in the community side. We're like the industry, to be honest, they kind of don't know what to do with us because we're generating significant revenues. We're supporting a lot of artists. And even, we've got a Grammy winner on our roster. We've got Juno winners, Canadian Country Music Association winners. We've got like some big names, but we don't sell any tickets and we don't sell any albums. So they're like, what do you guys do? We just hire musicians. And Mario, I want to mention, we're currently nominated for 2 of the Canadian Live Music Industry Awards. That's our national highest award. It's like the Grammys for the Canadian music industry. And we're up for community support. And for the 3rd year in a row, we're nominated for Agent of the Year for our Winnipeg-based agent, Rami Mays. So it's like the industry is recognizing us. We've actually won the award from that age. We won Organization of the Year, beating Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment in 2021 for the impact we made, putting money into musicians' hands, not agents' hands, musicians' hands.
Yeah, yeah. What would the world be like without music?
Well, to be honest, I guess the thing I would describe it as, it would be animal, because music is a language. And as humans, we've evolved language. And part of the music is like the icing on the cake of language. It's like when we started to communicate, we probably started with music. We probably sang a lullaby to a child sooner than we did anything else. We probably sang a nursery rhyme in our head to remember the way to the water source or the way to avoid the poisonous leaf. These are music's a memory tool, and music's just a language with a lot of words. Wait, I got that backwards. English is just a song with a lot of words. Yeah. So I don't think there's such a thing as a human existence without music. It's like, it's a foundational part of our character.
Yeah. And how do you two, like, obviously, you've got your careers as musicians, but you also have your career as business people. How do you balance those two?
Do I go first?
Well, balance is kind of like an ongoing challenge. We take it day to day because, especially having young kids and having uncertainties in life, like the music industry is definitely an uncertainty at times. You just kind of, plan as best you can, but also you should also expect unpredictable things to happen. So I think you're working towards balance. I don't know that I ever accomplish it, but it's always an ideal that's out there.
And Mario, I don't mind mentioning, and just full disclosure, I'm a person who lives with mental illness. I've got bipolar disorder too. And so part of our daily lives is living with mental illness. A lot of people in music have mental illness. A lot of people in our community have mental illness. And the truth is you can have mental illness and still run a business successfully, grow it over $1 million in revenue. You can still have a family, and so when you speak though of our kind of day-to-day balance between the work-life thing, we take time for rest. We take time for healing. We take time for listening, because these are things that you need to have when you're dealing with mental illness. Yeah. And they're also just good things to have in general, but they're also great things to build a company culture around, because we're a pandemic built company. We don't have to adjust to COVID because we were born of COVID. Yeah. We only exist in a place where things like consideration of others, it has to be taken into account. That's why we lead with diversity in our hiring. That's why our artist roster has a large percent of Indigenous performers all across Canada. We have this opportunity to build a company that is different than the historic kind of stereotypical evils of the music industry. The sexism, the racism, the things that are very prominent, the taking advantage of artists. The very foundation of our company is that 2/3 of all fees go to the artist. So everything we do exists on 1/3. And that is something the artist knows going into it, because historically artists have been taken advantage of in every contract. So we put most of the money in the artist's hands and let them know where all the rest goes. And then, you know what? That's super popular with the artists, because they're like, wow, you're treating us with respect, paying us pro wages. And you know what else? On time. We pay them on time. Musicians have had to wait for so long to get paid because our industry is not one that has the checks and balances that normal industry has. So there's often agents, promoters, venues who just, kind of take advantage of a musician. So we strive to build a business model where the artist is first. And that's really it's at the foundation of our principles, who we are as people, parents, community members. And it's something we can translate to our professional community too.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to chat about Curbside Concerts.
All right, wonderful. That was Amanda and Matt Burgener. Matt also goes by Matt Masters as a stage name. They're co-founders of Curbside Concerts. I'm Mario Tanaguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast, today on Calgary's podcast. Thanks for joining us.